Percy with an early run, he's onside this time! It's 1-1!
I bet you thought when the World Cup was taking a day off that we'd actually have a day off as well, but no, we laugh in your face. We are in glorious sunshine, clearly doing it the English way, indoors, recording and talking about the World Cup as it's gone on. The group stage is done. This is the Beermat World Cup podcast. My name is Stuart Quigley. Alongside me is Adam Barrett. He's been here or thereabouts in various games talking about it in little snippets in the day-by-day games we do it, but now this is the big one. We get to cover everything in one big go.
We're ready for the big game. I'm like England's first choice 11. Rested for the dead rubbers. Back here for our inevitable exit from this podcast on penalties 3 hours later.
Jeez. Right, we're going to go through each group. And actually, before we get into that, I just want to ask, because I haven't really had a chance to sit down with you at any point. It's been very hectic. How have you actually found this tournament so far? Because I think the consensus seems to be that this is one of the better ones.
Yeah. It's been a cracking World Cup, to be fair. I mean, controversy all over the place, on the pitch, in the booth, slightly off the pitch.
In the studio when Patrice Evers knocking around.
Yeah, great punditry from Slaven Village.
And Loro.
Oh, good old Loro.
Yes.
Now you never change. Who would have thought we'd be talking about yellow cards and goal difference and job lots and you know, deciding by who wins at the fair shooting competition.
I was going to say, normally it's like a mystical, magical octopus that does it. This time around, it's been everything but.
To be fair, that has been the one disappointing thing about this World Cup. I haven't seen enough mammals or sea life creatures predicting results.
It's true. Maybe as we get into the knockout stages, they bring out the animals.
If Russia go onto the pitch with a bear as a mascot, then, well, animal rights are going to be all over it for one, so I can't condone that.
No.
But if Putin is riding the bear,
yeah, no, that's shirtless as well. Yeah.
World Cup best.
Basically, what you're saying is Russia have a mascot, but I also have a feeling as well that they have other enhancements. What I mean by that is the fans cheering them in the stands.
Yep.
No other enhancements for Russia allowed.
The 12th man.
Yes. What, you mean the doctor? Oh wait, I let the cat out.
Oh god.
Yeah. I've run it enough. We're just joking about them. We're going to have to start there because we start with Group A, the hosts group. Uruguay, Russia, Saudi Arabia and Egypt. That is in order. Uruguay and Russia go through, Saudi Arabia and Egypt go out. For me, is this group decided about a month ago in Kiev when Sergio Ramos takes down Mo Salah, or is it slightly more complicated?
I think the obvious point, but also the sensible point, it did make a large difference, didn't it, really? In terms of psychologically for the team and the squad beforehand, obviously impacted upon them. But
the whole campaign's been a bit of a farce, really.
Obviously, it's kind of becoming, to continue the bear theme, a bit of a circus. But it wouldn't have been anything to do with Mo Salah, even if he was on the pitch, about why they conceded a goal in injury time in their first game.
And in the last one.
I mean, the last one, it was just, we got an old goalie on the pitch, well done. Saved the penalty, good stuff.
To be fair to him, the idea that like I can spend the next 15 years of my life getting ready for my World Cup bow, that's fine.
Yeah. But the thing is, if they draw that game against Uruguay, then if there's something on the line against Saudi Arabia, are they losing against Saudi Arabia? Quite possibly still, but I think the dynamic had just completely shifted. Same as the next group we'll talk about, last minute goal in the first round of games. It's knocked this group off kilter in terms of Egypt's hopes.
The thing I would say is, that aside, we actually sort of called this group relatively right, apart from the fact that I still think Russia are bombs.
Are Russia going to end up being like an England light, in a sense of getting a relatively straightforward group, beating the weaker teams slightly greater than expectation, going on the crest of the wave, losing the first game against anybody decent, then, this is our year, and then just getting smacked in the knockouts by the first decent team they play.
I do think that losing to Uruguay in the last group game, for Russia may turn out to be a benefit in the sense of it wakes them up a little, gives them a little slap in the face before, and probably Putin might have slapped a few of them in the face.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if it's just a slap, then they've got off lightly.
Saudi Arabia were about exactly as we said. They were better than you'd think, but that first game performance, much in the same way as Egypt's first game performance, kills the tournament for them.
Yeah, even if it would have been, say, a 2-0 defeat, could have regrouped, but getting smacked by that much early on, and then knowing that the authorities back home were not happy. And
I believe the word was they're going to be disciplined.
Yeah, and little did they know that discipline was happening so quickly based on a faulty play.
Oh yeah, jeez. I forgot about that actually. That was scary on every level, that was.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a plane that's had to have an abortive takeoff before, and it's not nice. But when you've got those two in your head, the link of, oh God, there's threats been made against me by the government of my own country, and oh, the next transportation I've gone on has nearly crashed. Then you're going to be, look.
It's actually even more impressive how much the game managed to rise because they'd actually stopped shitting themselves.
well, yeah. I mean, I was surprised we weren't seeing a repeat of the Gary Lineker situation.
Jeez, oh yeah, true. And then, obviously, just quickly before we rattle this off, group winners Uruguay have done what Uruguay do, I would say. They've looked very plain in most of the games, and you would say, oh, there needs to be more. But they showed that more in the last game, and then topped the group.
Yeah.
You can't grumble at 3 wins after.
No. Solid, efficient, little bit of skill on top. Before the tournament started, I thought they were the best team in the group and they were going to top it. It's turned out to pass without really having to get out of third gear, really. So,
the only one that you would say for them, have they got enough to raise their game because they're going to need to raise their game?
They will do, and I think in terms of second round opponents, I mean, beforehand we talked about you can't really predict who they were going to play in the second round, and that turned out to be true literally till the last minute, spoiler alert. But I think in terms of which team they would rather have played, I think they would rather have played Spain in terms of style. I think Uruguay are quite an efficient, get the solid defence first and then a little bit of attacking flair on top. The team they played next, they're exactly, they're just
start looking in a mirror.
So they're going to be better against a team who they'll be able to hit on the break, take by surprise, and they're not going to have that from there.
And probably as well, like the crest of a wave of Russia actually played into Uruguay's hands in a sense that they were never going to, and also the results, the fact that they were both through, meant that Russia were never going to set up shop. If that game had been open, there'd been something on it for Russia. I don't think, for instance, the Russia players pushed the guy out of the way for the wall for the free kick.
They have some good odds and 90 tricks on.
Yeah.
So it's shown for everybody.
Okay, we'll move on then anyway. You mentioned about the next group and how that lined up. We suggested there would be a surprise package in this one. We got that right, but it was a surprise to us in the sense of it wasn't Morocco, even though they're arguably the best side in this group, from aesthetically, what you watch. They finished bottom, and it was Iran that could have very nearly gone through.
The ending was how you expected, but how we got there.
Yeah. Just if you're listening to this and you're completely on a different planet, you don't know why you're listening to this, I'll say the teams in this group. Spain, Portugal go through, Iran and Morocco are the ones that are out. So, carry on.
To be fair, we were talking about earlier, is the best World Cup. Just
this group alone,
take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That microcosm of that last round of fixtures, we kind of anticipated it was going to be a close group. Not how close, I don't think. I mean, I think Iran have...
Quite literally, it was how close it was inches, because if that Iranian player has actually the skill and the mindset to dink it over the goalie rather than going for the shot near post, they could have won that quite easily. It's funny because what we saw to start with kind of set the tempo not just for the group but for the whole tournament, in a sense of Spain and Portugal could easily have been a 0-0, no one's interested and we don't want to lose. And funny enough, it did end a draw, but as you say, very much sort of the way for the whole group. How we got there was really impressive.
Yeah, and I suppose that old elephant in the corner of the room, Ronaldo, stamping his authority on the tournament, despite not really doing a lot in terms of overall contributing to the team performance, but when it's in his domain, as it were, knocking it away. And to be fair, that is very much the plan of Portugal 2016. Same again 2018, new and improved, as we said in the preview podcast, but it's become even more so now, as demonstrated by that second game against Morocco, where again Morocco were the better team. Early goal. Yeah, everyone behind the ball, lads. Let's play for the 1-0. It's
watching them as the tournament's gone on is, and it's going to sound like I'm damning them with faint praise, but it's like almost 50-50. I'm praising them and insulting them. It's like watching Mourinho's United. I feel like they're going to get done, but they very rarely do.
Yeah, and when Ronaldo goes back to Man United, it is results over style.
Yeah.
And they're going to say job done, as they did in Euros 2016. They are psychologically strong enough to disregard the fact that they became inches away of getting knocked out this tournament. They were like, fine, next. We'll just snide again.
It is also interesting as well, for all the general praise that they received, Iran are almost Portugal light, in a sense. And I know it's Carlos Queiroz that's the manager, but he's drilled them as, like, it's funny how, when it's a big side, you lambast them and you go, I can't believe you would have the temerity to defend and set up like that. When it's Iran, you're like, oh my, they're brilliant, I love this little Iran side.
Yeah, especially they go against Spain.
Yeah.
Where they pretty much got battered for most of the game. But just kind of had that 10-minute spell roundabout when they had the goal disallowed, where they had a few attacks and a few chances. And yeah, the world did collectively lose their shit.
Momentum in sport is sort of one of these things that, like, scientifically it can't be proven whether it actually exists. Whatever tangible that is, you felt it in that 10 minutes. You felt like, oh shit. And I'm not suggesting for a single second that I'm anywhere near as good a footballer as any of those Spanish players, but I've played games of football where you just stood there going, what the fuck is going on here? Yeah. And suddenly you're under the cosh that, like, you shouldn't be.
Yeah, and sometimes out of absolutely nowhere as well. It's like one moment, and so that was summed up by that game.
That is the positive side, though, of trying to just keep it down to one. I would always, and I would argue that if you've got the resources to play more expansive football, you should. But that is why teams do it, because if you can keep it down, if you can restrict it, if you can say, our opponent might score, but they're only going to get one at best, you're giving yourself a chance later on in the game. The only problem then is, if that doesn't work, then you're fucked.
Yeah, the margin for error is less in that strategy, but at least you have a shot.
Yeah, you've got a strategy, basically.
Yeah. Whereas it's all very nice to go out and attack teams, but if you're 4-0 down after half an hour, you get your plucky underdog platitudes for about 5 minutes, and then it goes down in the record books as a
heavy defeat. Yeah, it's funny actually, because on the flip side, Morocco were never really, like, all gung ho. The football they played was very pleasing on the eye, very good to watch, and yet they kept finding themselves in these positions against bigger sides, and all because of their failure in the opening game against Iran.
Like Group A, last-minute goal in the first round of games pretty much decided this group from Morocco. I mean, they had a good go in the next couple of games, but even if that game was a draw, would have made it completely different situation mentally going into the last game.
And they had the lead against Spain a couple of times, so you can't say that if they got the draw against Iran, they would have put in that performance, because we just simply don't know.
No.
But from what we do know, they would have been in a better position to get that.
And Spain, Morocco always had a slightly different element to it anyways. It's like the local derby, which neither country would say was their first choice of derby, but they both want to win. It's a bit like Villa Wolves.
I was thinking that, yeah.
It's not the first choice local derby, you know.
For either side.
Yeah, but you're always a bit annoyed when you lose, and if you win,
especially in the World Cup, where you know like something on the line. Unfortunately for this game, there wasn't as much on the line as there could have been, because I can only think what would have happened, and maybe we'd have got a shitter game, but I can only think what would have happened had there been something tangible on the line for both sides there.
Yeah, and I suppose that freedom did kind of
allow it, to transpire as it did. Right, on to Group C. France, Denmark, Peru and Australia. Again, a group that transpired, I think, pretty much exactly as we said. And not only that, one of the first groups that not only transpired exactly as we said, but there's no like late swerves. No. We said that it would go this way, and we said that of the three sides that aren't France, Denmark might have the best shot because of the schedule, and that's the way it panned out.
Yeah, there was a distinct lack of curve, more straight line. I mean, the only slight curve it wasn't really much of a curve, because we said that Peru were a good team and they played well. They were unlucky against Denmark first game.
Yeah, if your boy puts that penalty away.
Yeah, then that makes a difference. But I mean, in terms of the interesting thing about this group, I suppose, was going into the last round. Technically, Australia had a shot at going through, but based on their first two games, like, how this team still in the shot? I mean,
the thing I find interesting is that when they look back, I don't think they'll look at the Peru game. I think they'll look at the half an hour they had against Denmark toward the end, where they were creating chances. You were looking at it going, are Denmark really going to lose to this side that I think might be the worst side in the tournament? Because other than penalties, how did they score? Oh wait, they didn't.
No. They're a well-drilled, organised team, Australia. Bit like Iran, I suppose. Maybe even slightly better on paper. But in terms of momentum, that like 10-15 minute spell against France, when the VAR was beginning to make its mark on the tournament, as it were, if they would have got a draw in that game, I still don't think they would have gone through.
Here's a question for you actually, in regard to the VAR in the France game. Does that not allow the game to get away? Because I feel like, I don't know what your opinion is on the France penalty, but let's say the France penalty we know for a fact isn't, right? It's sort of 50-50. The guy shouldn't make the challenge, and whether he gets the ball or not is neither here nor there, right? But let's say it's definitely not. It's a blatant error. Without VAR, France get a terrible penalty. Australia get another one 5 minutes later. There's that air of this game can turn into chaos now. But with VAR there's not that sense of like, the game can't get away from it. It's sort of, in the underdog sense, it almost handcuffs them in a sense of like, the only way we can beat France is with some bullshit, and that's just been taken out the window.
VAR removing bullshit since 2018.
Making games interesting since 2018.
Well, yeah.
When it comes into the Premier League, though, I'm going to be disgusted.
Yeah, well, we ain't got that next year.
Yeah, so long as it doesn't directly affect teams I like, then I'm fine with it. But then when it starts to,
it's going to be carnage.
Yeah,
when it comes in.
I'm just thinking that, like, for Australia, what you have to do to get any points from that is a France player has to do something really stupid, which is what the France player does in the handball.
Yep.
They don't get the slice of luck with the fact that, like, Pogba's goal is a clearance. I think it went down as an own goal in the end. And so what you're saying is that, like, luck's going against you, and you can't even have human error go for you because that's been taken out the window now by VAR.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, it's all on our talent. Shit.
Yeah, no, in that instance, they were definitely fucked. Okay, then Denmark, I still don't know if they're any good or not. They've played 3 games, I've no idea.
They got a very good player.
Yes.
In Ericsson. Which, to be fair, is good enough for teams like Portugal to get themselves through. The main game I remember, for Denmark's perspective, that second game against Australia, took the lead early on.
Looked like that could have been a dicking. No?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, great goal, early on, this is bye-bye Australia. They then really made hard work of that. Momentum switched. Contender for the Golden Boot, Jedinak, getting another penalty. And then after that, it kind of, from Denmark's perspective, it was kind of a bit of a nothingness, a bit of a missed opportunity. There's going to be greater challenges in this tournament. You're kind of thinking, I mean, the France game, that's nothing, that's right off. So you kind of think the first decent team they play, they might get pasted.
I was going to ask you actually about this, the Denmark-France game. Is their performance, I was thinking to myself, okay, yes, they do need to seal qualification, right? But France are playing a reserve side and Australia are Australia. So I don't think it's massively pending that they needed to just shake hands for the draw on minute 1. However, are they not having a go at France? Not because they don't want to finish top, because they're looking at the group next to it and going, I've no idea who's going to finish first or second there.
I think it's also a combination of, as will be apparent with other teams as we go through, just get through. We don't care.
Oh no, yeah.
Just snide it.
I'm just wondering.
Do what you need to do.
I'm just wondering though, if you go all out and beat France, and then you're like, all the effort that it took to beat France. I know it was a reserve side, but it would have given them a boost. And then your reward is something terrible, which in this instance would have been Argentina. It's a question of whether they just looked at that situation and went, do you know what, we'll just take the draw. Whatever we do, as you said, just get through.
Yeah. I've mentioned this word a few times, I think. Momentum. It is, okay, are we trying to play the system because you don't know who we're playing? Oh no, potentially Argentina next round. I wouldn't be worried about playing Argentina for reasons we'll come on to. As you said, they play for the draw. They're like, just get through, we don't care. Do what we know is going to get us through. Should they have had a go at France? I'm more of the camp, you beat teams convincingly, you send a message, you get momentum. As we'll come on to later, it doesn't even matter who you beat. As long as you beat teams, you get in that bandwagon.
If you beat a bigger side as well, it helps.
Yeah, and that is rolling behind you. I think, it's a very narrow, Mourinho-esque style of strategy. It's done them. I mean, I suppose from Denmark's perspective, had they ever really done anything in the World Cup before? Not really, as far as I can recall. So they're just like, let's just take it stage by stage. It's like playing a game of Frogger, not looking at the other end of the lily pad, just looking at each individual stage. How can I get past that man? And is it a minimalist view? Should you be looking more expansive? Maybe you can just about understand it, but I think even the France first team, you got a feeling they're there for the taking. So reserve wise, that's
why I'm wondering why they didn't have more of a go, because if you had a conversation with the Denmark coach, and I imagine what you get in return, and I don't know this because I don't know him personally, who knew that we haven't got those kind of contacts. The question you would get in return is, what, in trying to attack France, what do I lose in, like, it's like risk reward. If you take X amount of energy out of your squad just to get that win, and then you're faced with another big challenge afterwards, it's a bit like, what was the real point of me running the squad down? I mean, yes, I've got that big win, but like, is it going to help me further on? Especially if you get doubled down with another big side and another big test coming up. Whereas he can sort of go, no, I took the draw, everyone's rested, we're going through, we'll play.
Yeah, and I suppose kind of because it's been slightly hot in Russia. So that's the
unseasonably.
Yes. Actually, to be fair, it was always quite high.
Yeah, it's one of those, because it's so fucking big, you forget. Yeah. You just think it's not like a snow-covered wasteland, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You just kind of image of it in winter is freezing.
Yeah.
You kind of forget that there is a flip. Somewhere that's usually very cold in winter, somewhere near the equator, is usually quite, well, bits of Russia are nearer the equator than others. Geography lesson here.
Speaking of countries that are deceptively warm given their actual name, Iceland in Group D, they were knocked out along with Nigeria. Who went through were Croatia and eventually Argentina. Neither one of us before this tournament started was that enamoured with Argentina. I think we've seen why.
Yeah, it is a bit like, must be seen like a child hero when they get older.
Which is ironic given who's in the stands giving it the finger and...
Anyone who turns up to a game with a banner of themselves, you don't know whether to admire the chutzpah of thinking, yeah, he probably was arguably, in terms of talent, one of the best players to ever play the game. So you think, yeah, if I was that good, maybe I would pick myself up. But then thinking, you don't want to be drawing attention to yourself from how far you've fallen, and now you're literally falling.
Yeah, no, he couldn't even walk.
You're literally falling now.
Do you know, it's really bad that, like, we've had this sort of image of Maradona. Forget the player, I'm talking about this image of a guy that just sort of bumbles around stadiums with a smile on his face, dancing with random women in the stands and just doing whatever he does. And that was probably when he was manager as well.
Yeah. It is unbelievable to remember that he was manager of this Argentine.
I loved that. I absolutely loved that. There was a really dark period in Liverpool's history where, not long after that World Cup, Roy Hodgson came to town, and not in a I'm going to go visit the museums kind of way. And at that time, we were so low as a football club. I was all in on appointing Maradona just for the Liverpool Man United press conference, where he probably tried to kill Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, and I suppose he was a slightly more successful managerial version of Gaza. How did you ever think this was going to work?
Yeah. It nearly did. Didn't I get to the quarters or the semis? Like, it nearly worked.
I think that was in despite of the manager.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I don't think Maradona's getting this team out of the group.
No.
Let's put it that way.
Well, I'll tell you who isn't getting this team out of the group. The actual manager right now, because he's not even in charge by all means now.
It is kind of a bit sad to kind of see the situation of the manager kind of being turned into a bit of a joke figure. Because in terms of club football, he actually came in with a very, very good reputation, very good record, thinking that's a good appointment for Argentina. But
you look at Argentina's actual tournament history recently, you think like, they've been terrible. They've been close for like the last 3 major tournaments, including Copa America in this. It's not like they've been tripping over themselves like this. I look at this Argentina side and it stinks of mid-table. There's quality dotted around it, specifically at the point of attack. I've never seen an Argentina side in my entire life where there's not like someone amazing in every position.
Yeah, this is the worst Argentina side I can remember.
Can you imagine how, as we stand right here, if they turn this around and win it from here, the rewriting of history? They wouldn't give them the credit, but for this Argentina side to even make it to like the semis would be almost Herculean.
Yeah, definitely. We ignore teams that have got to play, but just in terms of where they are as a group, clearly no coherent strategy in terms of team selection, in terms of tactics, just apart from, we've got this messy bloke, he's all right.
Yeah, he'll do all right.
Yeah. What you like around him, we don't care. It's
but
like,
that's pretty much what the strategy has been.
Yeah, it's like one of those, crap kickabouts you end up with where like it's just one bloke who just like keeps the ball all the time and, just let him do what he wants. We'll just go off and chat about stuff.
Yeah. Who's that guy in the stands giving us the finger? Oh, right, it is.
That's not Gary Lineker.
Jeez. Does this make them slightly more dangerous? Or are they still a shambles? The fact that they just managed to get through it. Because they're not dead. And in like a monster movie style, you've got to kill them when you've got the opportunity, because you can't think they could be any worse.
There is always going to be that element thinking we should have put them away. But I don't think you can turn around such a shambles.
No, okay, fair enough.
They had a pretty easy group in terms of getting that top 2. In terms of if you think you are a team who are going to be in the business end of the tournament, you should be knocking this group, no problem. And the fact that they scrambled 5 minutes to go.
Well, it's a negative in every game. Can't beat Iceland. And in fairness, that's more to do with Iceland than Argentina, but you can't beat Iceland. You get smashed by Croatia, which is the other top side in the group, and then you play Nigeria and you just get over the line. There's no positives on the face of it to take from any 3 of those games.
No, especially the Iceland game, because they had more possession, looked a better team, went 1-0 up. And then as soon as Iceland scored, it was...
You never really felt that they were going to get the winner, like Iceland this is, but you always felt like Argentina might gift it to them.
Yep.
But yeah, take Argentina aside then, Croatia, This is about as straightforward and as positive as you could have imagined. We're talking about like building some sort of head of steam for the rest of the tournament. They've done that.
Definitely, that second game, perfect scheduling, smacking that poor Argentina team, admittedly, but a big scalp for them, qualified after 2 games. Third game was Iceland. I mean, Iceland were a better team probably. But the kind of Croatia just...
You take the breaks where you can get them, to be honest with you.
Hit them, scored. So I think in terms of momentum, absolutely, definitely with Croatia, couldn't have gone any better for them, really.
No. And talking about sides that had like sort of an amalgamation of what we said about Croatia and Argentina, a side that had no momentum going into the tournament, aside from the fact they got a really nice kit, and a side that we saw on the pitch was a bit of a shambles, but managed to pull it together. Nigeria did, I want to say, remarkably well, up until the point where they let, of all people, Marcus Rojo bang one in.
Yeah, I think in terms of Nigeria, before the tournament started, we probably didn't think they were going to go through. We had to put it on the line. And the first game, very good Croatia team, but Nigeria weren't much cop. Going into the second game, kind of thinking, Iceland got a good result against Argentina. Iceland are probably...
Was this the first time in at least tournament football that Iceland had been the favourites?
It was feeling like that before going in the game. I think maybe mentally that kind of affected Iceland, kind of not being the underdog, which is what they based it all on, but Nigeria pulled that out of the bag. Then going into the final, it was set for them. Argentina team on the floor, their psychological...
A side that's been constantly...
beating them every single time, thinking...
This is the time.
Yeah, and couldn't do it.
The thing is as well, like, if you say to me that a side who's played Argentina over and over, who's had this history of being sort of blighted by them, as it were, and then Messi goes and does that, and you're like, this is the same guy that's been a bum in 2 games. He can't score from the penalty spot, and he's doing that against us. To pick yourself up off the floor from that, and I would condemn Argentina for it, and I have in the previous podcast condemned Argentina for the way they allowed them back into the game. But from a Nigerian perspective, to actually be able to just go, no, do you know what, it's not going to be that simple, and get something. And there was moments before the winner where Nigeria could easily have had one themselves. Igalo missed a golden chance, and I know he's claimed the handball, but it should have buried it.
Yeah, and I think that, sometimes talk about can historical results impact upon a team psychologically. When they draw Argentina again in the group in the next World Cup and lose again, that's when the full impact of this devastating defeat is going to come back to haunt them again. Yeah, this was, you don't very often get it laid on a plate for you. This was the closest you're going to get against a team who are top 10 in the world. And
it's funny as well because we talked about the whole Iceland-Nigeria thing with who's the underdog. In spite of everything that Argentina have been doing this World Cup, Nigeria was still the underdogs. So it was like they didn't even have the excuse of, we were suddenly the favourites.
Yeah, definitely. And couldn't do it, unfortunately, for the world.
Shame. Next up, Group E, we've been talking about a lot of sides who have not quite lived up to their pre-tournament billing, and another side that exactly fits that bill, but unlike some of the others that had to sort of struggle to get over the line, and yes, they did take to the last game to qualify, but Brazil topped the group ahead of Switzerland, Serbia and Costa Rica. Serbia and Costa Rica going home. You must be disappointed because first and foremost Switzerland actually made it, and not only did they make it, they made it the exact way you thought they would.
Yeah, and summed up by the fact that the 2 games, the 2 positive games really from their perspective, Brazil first up in a 1-1 draw and Serbia winning 2-1. They were crap. For most of those games, they were crap. Especially Serbia. Serbia, better team by a mile, 1-0 up, kind of thinking, wow, this Serbia team look alright. How far are they going to go in the tournament? And then 2 goals out of nowhere.
It's funny because it's the exact halfway point in the group stage where to that point Serbia have been nothing but positive and Switzerland have been not entirely negative because I actually do rate their comeback against Brazil, although VAR would question that.
Yeah, considering they should have been like 4-0 down to get a result. Fair enough, you've got to give them credit.
And Shaqiri being allowed to score that goal. I said it at the time and I said it on the podcast, I think climate change moves faster than Shaqiri.
I think he sums it up. He sums up Switzerland in towards I've done absolutely nothing apart from those moments, and you're looking around, tapping your pockets, going, "Shit, where's my wallet gone?"
Yeah. Because they've robbed it.
Yeah.
You've been robbed.
Out of absolutely no.
Yeah. I think the thing as well is that we mentioned about it before the tournament, Costa Rica and what they would have to do, because we're actually trying to scramble away for Brazil not to get through this group and Switzerland not to get through this group. We tried to find ways and means, and I think ultimately they're good, but they're not good enough. They're Iran without, I don't even know what they're missing, what they're not even Do they need to be more defensive? Is that it?
I think in terms of slight difference with 2014, they're a very defensively solid team, but they had a little bit of attacking quality when needed. This time round, not really any. It's just pure defence. Just pure defence.
Okay, here's the thing I would say then. From 2014 to now, right? Their attack has gone down and their defence has gone down. Is that it, really?
Yeah, but the defence is still relatively solid. But
from where it was.
Yeah. And if
it was achieving its goals last time around, whereas now it's not.
And now, if you're not going to score any goals, then I think that World Cup '94 you could get through the group stage with 3 points, but it's very rare.
A little bit of heartbreak in the sense that they only really have to hold out for like 2 minutes against Brazil to make it interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of the fine margins. Their plan was close. They were so close. I mean, kind of Brazil would have been 2 draws out of 2 should have beat Switzerland out of the park and didn't. So then for them, final game, it's a sliding doors moment. Serbia beat Switzerland like they should have done. Brazil draw against Costa Rica like the rearguard defensive performance maybe you can say deserved a point for Costa Rica. That final game, if they needed to win that game, and Serbia are already through after winning 2 games.
Yeah, so Serbia've got like nothing to lose in putting up the fight that the other 2 sides need them to, sort of thing.
It's like what might have been, and I suppose that is credit to Brazil. They pulled out the clutch play, as our American friends would call it.
I was talking about this the other day when I was talking about Brazil going through, so I want to ask you now, is Neymar trying to do too much, or does Neymar feel like he's got too much on his shoulders? And does he think he's got like a terrible side around him?
I think it is an element of him thinking he needs to do too much. As you said, this Brazil side aren't bad.
In a forward sense, they're probably the most complete.
They're pretty solid. I think it's just maybe just in terms of his personal makeup, thinking he needs to be the man. I mean, in 2014...
That's entirely what his move to PSG was based on, if you think about it.
Well, yeah. 2014 in the Brazil team, he was the man. As demonstrated, it kind of went slightly to shit.
But also as well, though, can you not, like... I don't know, like, professional footballers, how sort of big their ego is, and certainly like Neymar and a certain Swede that isn't in the side springs to mind in terms of how high opinion they have of themselves. But, like, surely you can see, like, what that did to him in 2014. I know it was an injury, but, like, he couldn't have done that on his own.
I think sadly the reality is for, like, Neymar in terms of the debate, which we're not going to get into, who's the best player, Ronaldo, Messi, Ronaldo, Messi, Ronaldo, Messi. It's just them 2 in that conversation. Neymar is frantically trying to grab himself in there. But the difference is between whether you're on the Ronaldo centre or on the Messi side. Portugal build that team around Ronaldo. If Ronaldo is not in that team, then Portugal, they're not doing anything. Argentina now, the shambles they are, Messi is that team. If he's not there, they're doing nothing. Brazil, you kind of think, if you take Neymar out of that side...
Still have a great side?
Yeah, exactly.
Also, do you think there's an element of this as well? You're saying about the Ronaldo... I hadn't even thought of this. You're saying about the Ronaldo-Messi stuff. And then throughout the course of the season, everything that's happened with Salah, and now people are going, oh, Salah could win the Ballon d'Or. And then Neymar stood there going, I've been doing this for 3 years.
Yeah. No one's really paying attention to him. And I think that it was kind of the flip side of the move to PSG. World record fee.
He's going to bring the Champions League home.
Yeah, you are the man at PSG. Yeah. But you kind of remove yourself from, I suppose, what you call the business leagues in Europe, which are Premier League, La Liga. Even, I suppose, arguably, you say Serie A is higher than French Premier League. So you made it all about you.
Let's put it this way, if you win the Champions League with PSG, okay, you get credit, right? But if you win the league with PSG, you get no credit.
No. Even in Spain, where it is really a 2-team league with Atletico chomping at the bit. If you win the league in Spain, you get more credit than winning the league in France. So you still got to win. And if
I think finishing second in Spain, you get slightly more credit depending on the way the race actually pans out than you do for winning the league in France. A narrow defeat in Spain, if you're playing for Barcelona and you're really on it, and you just get pipped to the title by Real Madrid, I think you get more out of that than winning the league in France.
And I suppose even demonstrated by why there's been this talk, which I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, I'm going to Madrid?
Yeah. In terms of their historical standard, terrible, in inverted columns in La Liga. Just won the European Cup again. Yeah. So you're still getting on that.
To be honest with you, he's felt like a Real Madrid player even when he was at Barcelona.
Oh yeah, I suppose especially if you look at it in terms of the Galactico kind of thing, he's definitely more that. I'm not convinced that will happen, but
I think it tells you a lot about how this Brazil side have played over this World Cup, that we've just spent all of it talking about Neymar and domestic football, because they've not been great. And I think one of the things that stands out to me is, I've said, yes, you've got great players, And there is another side in this tournament, a side that beat Brazil in the last World Cup, a side that humiliated Brazil in the last World Cup, that could do with some of this talent in and around the attacking side. Whereas they fucked up in their, potentially, and I'm not going to get into that until we get to them, in their makeup of their squad. In the makeup of Brazil's team, I think they got the squad as right as you can probably get it, made barring one or two that I'm probably going to think of after we've recorded, so I'm saying that now. But I don't think they got their first team right at all. I think Firmino needs to be in there. They've looked such a better side when he comes on.
I think playing the devil's advocate, I can see why he isn't in the Brazil starting 11, just because his qualities as a player.
He'd be running around closing down on his own, and that doesn't work.
You know, obviously he's very good form for Liverpool. He plays a very specific role at Liverpool. He's almost like the Vogue of saying numbers. He's like the 9.5 or 10.5 at Liverpool. He's basically like you have like the strike partnership up front, him and Salah. He plays such a specific role in that Liverpool team, doing all the closing down, doing all like the harrying, all the kind of that linking play so Salah can just do his thing. There isn't so much call for that in this Brazil team.
No, there isn't, because A, the role he plays for Liverpool, and B, the sort of standing where Liverpool are right now. They're just hovering below that sort of top tier. They're literally winning the European Cup is sort of what punctures that. But right now it's just hovering, ready to be like, we're the next side. And Brazil, in world standing, are in that top tier.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sort of do that same role. But I agree with you in that sense. But do you not think that like he would link better with Coutinho for a start? Do you not think he would create space for Neymar for a start more than Gabby Jesus? Gabby Jesus, I understand it. The idea of Gabby Jesus being in there is he's just a finisher. But they're not really getting the chances to do that. So you have to create a bit more.
Yeah, I see your point. I think in terms of arguably, if you're looking at the true building a perfect team dynamic up front, controversial view, you would have Firmino, Jesus, Coutinho. I think because they're hamstrung, they've got to play Neymar.
Yeah.
Because he's their figure.
You know, I think that's fair, and I think we've seen a lot of that in the set piece routines where like Neymar's just decided he wants to get in on the action and be the centre of attention. When you do look at it sometimes you go, that lad that keeps blamming him in from 30 yards, he might be better off taking these free kicks. Yeah. So I do agree with you, like Coutinho is sort of taking over as the focal point potentially, and maybe is better suited to it.
It'll be interesting to see moving forwards for Brazil whether internal egos will hinder progress.
Maybe. They wouldn't be the first side in World Cup history for that to happen to.
No.
I'm not sure it's the first Brazil side, but it definitely wouldn't be the first side full stop. I just want to mention before we move on, you're talking about Serbia and we're talking about fine margins. Are they going to like take this tournament and be like, okay then, we have to use that as a marker and we have to be in the World Cup next time around, we have to go further, or is it just a case of like, was this their shot?
I don't think it's their shot, just because I think their youth system is very good. This was kind of like the first showing of that kind of over the last couple of years.
I do worry about that defence though, the defence is quite old. The rest of it, not so much.
Yeah, and I think kind of, I suppose, mentally, first game, win 1-0, getting positive reviews. Second game, halfway against Switzerland, looking comfortable. That collapse in the second half.
Is it possible? I mean, of course, yes. The answer is yes. That like actually becomes like a focal point of like Serbian history, almost.
I mean, I think that the advantage
footballing history that is not. I'm not talking about Shaqiri and that doing the arms.
Yeah, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Which we will not be getting to.
No, we. Spoiler alert, I'm not getting involved in Balkan politics.
Yes.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, we're launching that in the next week.
Yeah. But I think in terms of, I suppose Serbia, in terms of, because the Euros next tournament, there's like lots of teams.
3,000 teams.
Yeah. Next World Cup, there's like 8,000 teams in there. So they're going to be back. And it will be a question of, going into tournaments, always with Serbia, you never know what you're going to get, whether in terms of quality, one of the better sides, in terms of mental fragility, also up there in terms of that, which one's going to happen. And you kind of had it all aspects covered in those three games. I mean, in terms of their final game against Brazil, needing a result.
They needed to win, that was the problem.
It never really looked like they were going to win. I mean, they had a spell. In the second half, they had like a 10-15 minute spell. But overall, I kind of think Brazil were comfortable.
But yeah, Serbia, I wouldn't necessarily say it was waving the white flag, because that's getting into the other podcast, but like, needing to win against the Brazil side, scoring twice was one thing, scoring 3 times, they could have called that final whistle a long before.
Oh yeah, and I think it was just kind of a bit of a procession by the end, unfortunately. And it could have been so different.
Speaking of it could have been, and speaking of history and football taking on a whole new level, we're talking about all the things we talked about so far have led up to a really good World Cup. This group is what will probably tip it over the edge, as at least in my lifetime, the best. Sweden, Mexico, South Korea and Germany. Germany finished bottom of the group. Before this tournament, I said, I can't back against Germany because I've been punished before. And now Germany found a way to punish me by being so shit that I should have backed against them.
Yeah, it is that kind of mentality with Germany that they would always find a way. Which is kind of what, pretty much, that was our previous, like, they look crap, but it's Germany.
This is how ingrained this is in my mind. I still think Germany are more likely to win a World Cup before England, and they're out and we're in.
Yeah, all the stats you've kind of already heard 100 times before. First time since 1938 they haven't got out of the group stage. There was a bit of calm in world politics after 1938. Also part of our sister podcast, History, when football goes wrong. It's a wonderful benefit of Captain Hindsight. I'm not going to pretend I saw it coming. It didn't. But
I remember watching, all I can say is this, and I feel like even this is retroactively trying to big myself up. I remember watching them against Saudi Arabia in a friendly and going, oh, hang on, they look really disjointed.
Yeah,
but I thought it was just because it was a friendly.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia, they were crap. They lost to Austria, hadn't really been flowing for a while. Even, I think Joachim Low admitted it, kind of, they just thought, oh, we'll turn up against Mexico, we'll just flip the switch and we'll be on it. Never happened. Mexico, I mean, they had chances in all three games, to be fair, Germany, to win all three. And I think, as Hummel said, it's fine margins. If they would have got...
Hummel's... that's the thing
he missed all the chances himself.
That's the thing that I find fascinating, is that you've got all this side, and you know what, actually, when you actually watched it, you've realised there was a lot of talk about Sane over this, or whoever, right? I looked at the way they were playing, and I'm like, actually, that wasn't where the debate lied. The debate lied on the rest of them, the ones that actually were in the main squad.
So I will, from my perspective, put this debate to bed. It's a very easy argument to say, Sane should have been in instead of Brandt. I don't think Brandt played. He was probably one of Germany's better players.
And that's the other thing as well. You have that fuss about Sane over Brandt. How many minutes did Brandt play? 5 in each?
Yeah, I mean, he played 19 minutes and he was in total, and he was still one of Germany's best players.
It should have been both of them, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame that.
Genuinely, and I don't want to go all in on him because I went all in on him the other day, but how bad was Thomas Muller?
I gave him the kiss of death by saying he'd win the golden boot in my team in my team competition, just simply because I thought Germany would go far enough for him to score goals. But I think he got dropped for the final game, didn't he? But his replacement did even worse. Who I was most disappointed by was Werner.
Yeah, I can see that.
He will come again.
That's the reason. That's the only reason I'm not going in.
Yeah, it's like I thought it was meant to be good.
It's
terrible.
There is that scenario, and you can just see it because, again, we're laying into these German stereotypes, where Werner's lifting the World Cup in 4 years, and he's talking about this tournament as being the making of him.
Oh yeah,
I can see it.
I mean, you look at it in terms of, I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but we talked about it off air. What was the worst German side we can remember before this? Euro 2000, when probably one of the worst England sides we can remember beat them in the group stage.
Is that when we both got knocked out?
Yeah, and then 2 years later, Germany were in the World Cup final.
This is the thing that never gets talked about. When England beat Germany 5-1, all the historical significance of that, the whole parade of things that you still see. Germany went on to that World Cup final. We didn't.
Yeah.
This is what it's almost like, I want to say like a sort of Hydra. You chop one head off, two more up here. In German football, if there was nothing coming through, then I'd be like, okay, no, this could be it for them. But there's loads.
Yeah, there's always plenty coming through. I think that in terms of certainly World Cup 4 years' time, it's going to be a different team, especially in defence. It'll be nice that Manuel Neuer's probably last involvement in a World Cup is trying to be a winger.
Do you know what? That's brilliant. Have you seen his touch map where they put a dot every time he touched the ball, and it's like dot, 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 and then 40, 50 yards up the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of, I can see throwing your goalie up is one thing, but going up on...
I don't mind that, because...
I don't mind throwing your goalie up. Throwing your goalie up on the left wing, I think is...
Maybe he's got a killer cross on him. He's been putting them balls in all day in training.
It's pretty...
And all I say is, and when I saw it happen, I instantly thought, this happens in ice hockey a lot. And yes, it didn't work, but I am surprised I haven't seen it in football more.
Yeah, I mean, I can see throwing your keeper up. Yeah, you get everyone in there, it's especially in terms of set pieces, you plan beforehand, marking each player, marking each number, and the goalie comes in, it's like, oh my god, who's picking up the goalie? I can see that, but...
Well, the whole thing with Neuer is that he's really good with his feet though, so... Could be worse. They could have carriers throwing it in off someone's arse. German goalies haven't had a great month, really.
No. What a way to go out there would have been.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. I can speak from personal experience. It's not bad. Okay, we're going to actually talk about the other teams. I want to give South Korea the biggest credit in the world, purely for the fact of they could have easily just laid down in that last game. There's nothing really on the line for them. There's an outside chance, but
yeah.
When you are 70 minutes in and you're still breaking with the same sort of intensity that you would in the first game, admittedly, they weren't making clever decisions, but they were still trying.
No, it wasn't a lack of effort from Korea as to why they didn't qualify from this group. It was just, as we identified before, just a lack of talent.
Well, realistically speaking, they lost by 1 goal in the other 2 games that they didn't win. There's no disgrace there at all.
No, I mean,
sadly, most of them are going to go to the army now because it is a disgrace, but yeah.
Yeah. They're going to the North Korean border to build the Donald Trump Memorial Wall. But they played how we'd expect them to play, disciplined, with a plan, trying to play solid football.
They've got their focal point as well up front, and I feel like he was 1 or 2 breaks away from having a really good tournament, but never really. It's really difficult when you're Ronaldo or Messi or whomever, and the plan is get it to him, right? And Portuguese players and Argentina players sort of have the ability to navigate and get through to you. And I'm not saying that South Korea players don't have the ability. I'm just saying that even that drop off of 5-10% means that he doesn't get put in at the exact moment he should, or the pass goes slightly astray or slightly overhit or underhit. And it's those fine margins that means that you don't get those breaks.
Yeah, and it was a lot more difficult to get him in the game, just in terms of the teammates who was around. And it was Sweden opening game. Looking back with benefit of hindsight, fairly even game really. Penalty decision, VAR assisted, that was them. Despite what happened in Sweden's last game, 2 average sides just fell on that wrong side of the fence.
Right, okay then. So of the 2 teams that went through here, it's a very almost opposite ends of the spectrum story. Mexico started fantastically and ended terribly. Sweden have just gradually built this, we're actually good, run.
Sweden are just a solid, my Bassett wet dream, 4-4-2.
Imagine you get rid of Ibrahimovic and a side comes together and rallies.
True, but any team with Seb Larsson, I can't take entirely seriously. They're not very good. I mean, it's painful. They smacked Mexico 3-0 in the last game. They're efficient. You can't underestimate in the sense they're not very good. I don't think this Sweden team will ever score 3 goals again in the game.
Collectively.
Yeah. We thought they'd be solid, workmanlike. They need a bit of luck. Didn't really get luck against Mexico, in the sense they were the better team, deserved to win. But Mexico kind of thought they had the job.
That's the weird thing. Mexico had this, because of the other game, they were in this really weird position that if Cruz's goal doesn't go in, if that finishes 1-1, Sweden don't beat Mexico 3-0. That game plays out as a draw to send them both through. And Mexico finished top. So Mexico could ironically look at the Sweden defence as the reason why they're not going through as top. They'd won 2, and yet faced the prospect of being, I think, the 3rd team to be knocked out after winning the first 2. That's not the kind of history you want to be on.
No. It was demonstrated by their performance. It was a bit unsure, and then there was a moment where it's oh shit.
Do you think in the same way that I said Russia got beaten in the last game and it's given them a bit of a slap, do you think that will help Mexico now? And they've got a huge game on Monday. If they play like they did against Germany, as poor as Germany were, this could be a cracker.
It could be, but I think in terms of what happened in the last game, it's giving them a slap and they're on the floor, and then they're seeing who is going to administer the next slap.
Oh, right, fair enough.
I think it was integral for them to top the group when they had the opportunity, and they haven't, and they got beaten.
They've got their just desserts now, basically.
Yeah, they got beaten by an average side.
That's your reward.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Mexico of the first game thinking, this is a good team that's going to go somewhere. They're not.
Okay, fair enough. Is it possible that they just put all their energy in that? Saw how bad Germany were, thought they could catch them cold?
This is another example of wonderful hindsight, but they beat the worst Germany side in 80 years. They nearly threw it away against Korea, and they got smacked against Sweden. You want an outsider, you want to get a bit of, there's exciting attacking
There was a hot minute after the Germany game where you were thinking, all the big guns are falling down. You were like, why not Mexico? And I think we've seen why since. I still think they've got an outside chance. Which is all they've had at the start. So they've done all this and they've ended up where they were at the start.
Yeah, funny enough, we all thought they were going to come second in the group.
Yeah.
And they have come second in the group.
Yeah. I think we've talked about a lot of groups that sort of even if they've ended the way that we thought, they've taken a really weird route.
Yep.
Group G actually was exactly how we thought. Belgium and England go through, Tunisia and Panama pan out. That's it.
Yep.
It's like...
Shortcut through the canal.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I could just leave this group, to be honest with you, because aside from England-Panama, where England went goal crazy, which is not something I've never really seen that.
No. It's very rare we win any games comfortably.
Yeah. That's the thing that I find fascinating about this whole finish first or finish second thing in the England-Belgium game yesterday. We haven't been in this position for at least 3 tournaments.
No. It is, in terms of before the tournament, you're thinking good group for England in terms of qualification, 2 teams who you should beat, and then last game.
Do what you do.
It's not going to matter, no one cares.
I think that the key for me is that, yes, it was reserves. It was a narrow game. It wasn't like both sides were actively trying to lose. There's no glossing over the fact that you lose to Bobby Martinez and Januzaj. That feels like a gut punch, but I feel like there was enough of a competitive game there to give the illusion of like, yeah, we're still fine.
In terms of, I see the benefit, you give your other players a game. In theory, they should be thinking, if I have a really good game here, I can force myself into the tournament, kind of get myself in the team for the knockout game. I don't think there's anybody who started for England last night who isn't a first choice who'll be thinking, I should be playing next game.
No, but at the same time, you want your players, I think both England and Belgium, in case someone gets an injury, to be at least match ready.
Yeah, they've got a bit of time. I mean, I'm just saying, I've heard pundits saying, Danny Rose had a really good game. His fault for the goal. It was lazy defending.
That's the thing I find fascinating about the game in general. I think this gives you an idea of what kind of game it was. Danny Rose and Trent Alexander-Arnold were the 2 England players on the ball the most.
And I think it does show the difference between a good side and a great side, a championship winning side. Arnold, in terms of experience, 4th teenager, I think, to play for the World Cup for England. Lots of endeavour. He was in charge of set pieces.
We've not got a set piece specialist, to be honest. I'd rather have him on it than Ashley Young, but like that's you're flipping a bad coin there.
Yeah, I wouldn't based on last night because it was pretty rubbish. But then expected a 19-year-old to be the set piece.
I've seen him we've seen it before. You only have to score 1 to be a set piece specialist, and when he banged it in against Hoffenheim way back when in the early morn of this season just gone, that's it now. He's a set piece specialist for life, and he probably will score a few. But just like as you said, you can't expect him to be like at this age to be like, I want to be David Beckham at his pomp.
No, and I think it just demonstrates that the England starting 11 is clearly the best 11.
Also as well, you did have an idea of how much priority Southgate was putting on this when Harry Kane went nowhere near that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big call to kind of say, we're going to throw it.
I don't think it's a throw though, that's the thing.
We threw it. If we would have got a draw, we would have topped the group.
Yeah.
If we really wanted a draw, as you said, we would have thrown Kane on, we would have put Danny Welbeck on for a start. But we didn't. We'll just stick with the plan of getting minutes for people.
I think
take second. They didn't care if they came second.
There is a big difference between that and throwing it actively.
Oh yeah, I don't think we actively tried to. I don't think we actively tried to lose. I don't think we were deliberately going like.
If we were, we'd have brought Joe Hart on.
Yeah, or Karras, get him going.
Yeah, exactly.
Now here we go. So I don't think we actually tried to lose, but we didn't care if we lost.
I think that's where the subtlety of I say the subtlety of language, but the subtlety of football lies. If you actively try and throw it, that's where you get the criticism. But he's just done enough to give, as I said before, the illusion of competitiveness. The problem you've got is this: play the first team and someone gets injured, you get criticised. You play the reserves and you fuck up massively, you get criticised. You lose to Brazil or Brazil lose to Mexico, you get criticised because that's suddenly the harder route out of the way. And then you lose to Colombia, you get criticised. Here's the key, just don't lose the next game. Yeah. It's not about this one.
It's a very fine line that's been left now. There's no margin for error because I think in terms of, it depends how much you believe in momentum. Because I think in terms of second round draw, top in this group, gives you a much better second round draw. I think this story will be quite similar to a lot of other stories we talked about, as in the end result is going to be the same. But how we got there is just entirely roundabout. I mean, we said quarterfinals before the tournament for England, that's good. That is what we hope, that's what we expect. We can get there, but just it's going to be different.
Just quickly, have you got a quick word on either of the other two sides?
Panama, Tunisia. I do, actually. On Tunisia, the Phil Neville man of the tournament, Khazri.
Man, if only you could play for England women.
I'm thinking he must have slept with Phil Neville's wife. Just for the amount of hatred he had in like a game which was nothingness really. Tunisia are playing Belgium. You expect Belgium to beat Tunisia. Mm-hmm. Belgium beat Tunisia quite comfortably, really. I mean, Tunisia had a go, which kind of helped Belgium.
Yeah.
And the amount of abuse Kajru was getting that up. Like, basically, you figured he's the worst human being of all time. He's an absolute disgrace. I don't remember him. What I remember of Kajru is he kept Sunderland up under Sam Allardyce when he came. Mm-hmm. When they went down the next season, that had been brewing for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I can't think of any Midland-based clubs where I can make a similar comparable to that. But he's getting the flack, and then he scored. That was the best bit. I mean, and then he scored again in the final game.
It's on a hot streak.
Man, he is the player of the first round.
Yeah, if only there were some more games for him to play, but they're out.
What can I say? Tunisia, 21st in the world in the terms of the rankings. In terms of ability, you wouldn't have put them 21st.
They're better than you think, though. You watch the first game against England, they put up a fight.
Yeah, they're solid.
They fucked themselves a little bit against Belgium by conceding so many. The thing about Tunisia that interests me is the fact that, like, they don't go away. Many shit sides, if you score against them, that's it. They've got their plan. And if you manage to break that plan, they've got no plan. Tunisia seem to be, like, well versed in shitness enough to go, okay, we're fine with it going wrong. We can do something. But the problem is, when you're so used to it going wrong, it always goes wrong.
Yeah, they got a win in the tournament.
It's exactly as we expected. It was like Tunisia will beat Panama. Both sides will lose the other two games, and it comes down to what happens in England-Belgium.
Yeah. And I suppose as regards Panama, we knew in terms of quality they were the worst side in the group, arguably in the tournament.
Yeah, everyone wanted them as a 4 seed. And then what you have is you've got like 8 months of build-up of trying to convince yourself that the game against Panama is going to be a 0-0, so that when it's 1-0, you're fine with it.
Yeah. And
then it turns into 6-1, and you're like, oh, what? The amount of people that are like cheering a fifth goal against Panama from the penalty spot, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, I think that was more expectation on us, thinking that, think about Trinidad and Tobago 2006, kind of scrabbling through last 10 minutes. That's what we were thinking.
And also you've got the idea that like we have the celebrations of ours, and then when Panama actually score and then Panama go mad, rightly so, everyone's like, what are you celebrating for?
Yes, that's alright condescending, but for them to get to the World Cup, that was, that is their achievement, and they scored and they were competitive in the first half against Belgium, scored against Tunisia. When the next World Cup is like 8,000 teams, they might be back again.
Let's hope so.
I think next time, hopefully, they'll actually try and play football.
Indeed, yeah. Well, that usually is the aim of the game.
Yeah, but well.
Right, last group then. Colombia and Japan go through. Senegal go out. We'll get to that. And Poland. What happened there?
But I suppose they are the epitome of a team who do really well in qualifying, thinking, it might be their year in the tournament, and always flattered to deceive. I don't know whether that's psychological. It's not in terms of quality, because I think we said this group was kind of the most even out of all the groups in the pre.
And you look at the points on it, and it's like, yeah, it was quite even, but it really wasn't actually. Like in Poland's case, they finished 1 point behind second, but they weren't 1 point behind second in performance.
No. So you must think maybe it's psychological. You've got to think that pressure. I mean, they had Lewandowski who scored like 15 goals in qualifying, and then the World Cup, they got him nowhere near the ball. I don't know what they were. Yeah,
like we're talking about like the ability to get like Song Min-hyun on the ball with South Korea, and like other teams versus their main player. If you can't get the guy the ball, what can he do?
Yeah, and especially Lewandowski is very much a penalty box kind of player. He's not tracking back 40 yards to try and get the ball.
I also think as well, like when we're talking about Iceland, we're talking about the whole being an underdog versus not. Poland being the top seeds, I think if Poland are the second seeds, maybe it's a case of like, there's a bigger team above them, they know what they've got to do against them. But Poland looking at these three going, and they did get the shit end of the top seed draw.
It's one of them with Poland, they're too good to be an underdog, but they're not good enough to be top seed.
Yeah.
And so they kind of fell in between, and that kind of, summed up through the lovely schoolyard goal against Senegal. I'm just going to stand by the edge of the pitch. Oh no, I'm going to run on now.
Yeah,
I did a few of them back in the day.
Oh, it's great. It's a classic old school move.
Yeah, and then they fell for it hook, line, sinker. But you got to think they're Asian team as well, aren't they, Poland? Really? So.
It feels like they're a side that's been sort of where Croatia have been for many a year, and Croatia somehow managed to maintain, whereas Poland are sort of on the decline. And it's only really this tournament that you'd say that.
Yeah. Germany getting knocked out, Poland getting knocked out first round. Maybe a reunion could be on the cards.
Jeez. Man, you're desperate to do this political podcast.
Right.
It's amazing. I think the thing for me as well is that like you've got the other three sides. Japan, by the way, much better than I expected. I still think they will.
The thing with Japan, I suppose, was kind of, we're going into stereotypes, they're not really much of a physical side. You kind of thought, could they deal with the hustle and bustle? They managed to get some snidey bastards in the team, and that helped. I mean, in terms of...
They pressed the emergency button, got on the phone to Sam Allardyce and go, where are these bastards?
Get some snide.
Find us.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of... You're thinking, last game where it's Poland, the more physical side, that result panned out how you would think it was going to before the tournament, but, I mean, key game for them against Senegal, coming back from behind twice shows character. I mean, especially...
Also stabs me in the heart, that one.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
You know, you look in terms of, for example, England, they haven't come back from a losing position in the World Cup since 1966.
Jeez.
So, for Japan to do it twice...
Yeah, the 3 minutes into your first World Cup game against Colombia, to have that incredible penalty handball, what was this guy doing, sort of thing.
Especially as arguably, even though they weren't top seeds, you would have said they were the best team in the group before the tournament. And then even with 10 men, you're kind of thinking, Colombia, they've still got enough here.
Yeah.
And when Colombia equalised, you're thinking,
by the way, massive shout out to one of my favourite moments of the group stage, where that free kick goes in. It's a good yard behind the line, and the keeper just goes, nope. He does a Roy Carroll.
Yeah.
I'm all in on that. I'm fine with that.
Actually still moaned for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was so good.
And he was going check the goal. No, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, please don't. I've seen it once. You really don't want to know what's behind that door.
And it was nowhere near. It was
a good yard.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes when it's fair and you see it's on the line and it's like, all of the ball isn't over the line. It's like millimetres in it. This was so far over the line, someone in the stands picked it up.
You got to admire his optimism.
I loved it.
I mean, we've played with goalkeepers, friends of the show, who've done similar things.
Yes, that's very true, actually. It's very
Never
true.
thinking you'd see it in a World Cup, and it has happened.
I think maybe the Japan goalie may have been asleep, but what I would say is that Colombia have fucking sleptwalked to top spot. How the fuck have they done this? They've been poor, apart from one game.
Well, I suppose it's kind of, demonstration of putting effort in when you really need to. I mean, the game against Japan, red card early on, best player not in the team. It's kind of thrown them a bit, but you're thinking it's probably still should have got a point.
Yeah.
Even in that position. Poland caught them in a good time second half, smacked them, comfortable win. And then against Senegal, somehow still scraped to win. I mean, I suppose we've said it about a few teams, not playing very well but still getting through. It's all going to click together. I mean, for them it's going to be, Rodrigo is going to be fit.
Yeah. It's interesting as well because we've seen a lot of sides in the earlier groups whereby a loss in the first game has written their campaign off.
Yeah.
And a sort of a loss where you're like, that was unnecessary. And losing to Japan in the first game, you would say that's that kind of loss. So to come back from that is actually really impressive. I would say that I am hugely disappointed by Senegal in that last game. But I also would say that there is no way in history you should be written out of a World Cup on yellow cards.
What I'd say about that is you know what the rules are before it goes in. I mean, it is...
Can I just ask you a question? And I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to ask this, I need to ask this, and this veers off toward our political podcast, so I've got to be very careful here. Do you think there is the danger with having a yellow card system like that? There is a potential of referees maybe going, oh, you're an African side, you must be more physical.
I think in terms of the commentary, I mean, you listen to any African team, you just hear physicality,
pace,
strong, good running.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
If you did a shot every time they said that, you need a liver transplant by the end of the game.
Yeah, so you keep hearing that. In terms of referees, I don't think it does. I mean, you get some good refs, you get some crap refs.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure that's dependent on that. I mean, in terms of personal preference, do you want a group decided by cards? No.
I have a theory, I have a way of doing it.
It's like you wouldn't. I think in terms of deciding a group, you'd want it decided in terms of attacking
shots
stats.
On target.
Yeah, I'd rather have it decided in terms of attacking play than cards.
Imagine that last half an hour between Japan and Senegal, like both games I mean, whereby like against Poland you might not win, but both sides need to have more shots on target.
Yeah.
That would have been a mess at the end, and I would have been all for it.
So one of my fears has always been if you're not getting yellow cards, because you're getting nowhere near the ball.
Yeah.
Going into the political podcast, left, right, and centre, it's a millennial thing. I don't class myself as a millennial.
Technically, we are, though, sadly.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fighting against that tide, like Canute, trying to get the waves back, in a sense of, we got to decide things about being nicey, or fair play. It's not football.
Here's a question, actually. Do you know the whole fair play thing, right? Why don't fouls count?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's kind of a difference, you know, in terms of like, going back to our bread and butter of the Premier League podcast, in terms of the team who are the snidest bastards in the league, Spurs, in terms of foul count, they're up there. In terms of how many yellow cards, down there.
Yeah.
Tactical fouls.
Surely you should have like some sort of point system. I think like they do in fantasy football, whereby, I mean, I wouldn't agree with it. I wouldn't be fine with a team being knocked out on it. But if you're just counting yellow cards, then that kind of depends on the referees you get, the circumstances, and everything else. The way we were talking before, I'd rather it be like attacking shots on target, and then if you can't decide shots on target, then shots on target in the actual game they played against each other. So you was the more attacking in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that'd definitely be a preferable way of playing it. But in terms of the way Japan played, once they realised, they just, you know, put everyone behind the ball and just tapped it around for 10 minutes.
Poland weren't that arsed about getting a second, which is a little shame.
Well, you know, they were already out, they didn't care.
Well, it's the case in a World Cup where we've seen sides that have been eliminated still play their part in the last group stage games and sort of offer something. Poland did offer something, and I'm not condemning them massively. They got a win, and fair play to them. But I would have liked to have seen, from a personal perspective, I would have liked to have seen a second Poland goal, because I didn't want to see. But Senegal were my favourite side in this whole tournament, and I'm going to look back at this tournament and go, I really don't know how they got knocked out.
I mean, I think in terms of Japan, were basically, their tactics were Senegal aren't going to be able to score a goal, and if that goes wrong, then they look stupid. And you know, it's a fine line. You got proved right. Unfortunately, Senegal couldn't score that goal to get them through. I mean, I think in terms of, you know, for Japan getting through the group, probably beyond expectations, I would have thought, or like, you know, they hit what they needed to do from getting through the group. Winning is always kind of the most important thing in football. It's kind of, you know, there's always circumstances that get exploited by the rules. I mean, looking back, you know, 82, that's the most famous example whereby the final group games were played at different times. Germany, Austria, I think it was. Just, they knew a draw would get them both through. So they just
holds it.
Is that for 90 minutes? And then they changed the rules.
Yeah.
And then different, you know, in terms of goal average, goal difference, change and all that. I'll probably change it for next World
I can't say anything. Liverpool once got through a European Cup tie on a toss of a coin.
Yeah. Give them the opportunity to exploit the rules for their own benefit. Most people will. And Japan did. And, you know, it's not great in terms of attacking quality for the World Cup, in terms of getting the better teams through the group. I think Japan had the second lowest seed in the second round. They did what they needed to do, and
yeah,
you know, I don't think you can admire them for it.
Yeah, I don't hate them. I just hate the fact that they did that to my beloved Senegal. That's the problem.
Yeah, they kind of...
I can't believe, I never thought I'd say this, I never thought these words would leave my mouth, but I'm going to be really gutted that I'm not going to see Alou Cisse anymore.
Oh man, he's done a good job.
He's the most stylish man in the tournament by far as well.
You know, brought some youth players through Senegal. Hopefully he gets himself an opportunity to stick around the next few years, but their perspective, they beat Japan.
Yeah. No, that's it. That hurt at the time, and it hurts now.
Yeah.
I was a good 7 points in after that, and I needed the commiseration. Another 7 points. Jeez. Just quickly before we wrap this up, I want to ask actually, and again, this could be another hour-long podcast, but I've got to get this in. VAR, yes or no?
Yeah, I think you got to have it in.
Do you know what? I don't like technology that much, and I've been fine with it. Do you know what it does? People say in the moment of the goal, it changes the dynamic of the celebration. I think maybe only certain goals that will happen to, and even then it's a 50-50, right? However, you get the right decision, I'm fine with it. What it does do, which I find really interesting, is it makes any situation in the box infinitely more interesting.
Yeah. Well, I would say in terms of VAR as a concept, definitely a positive. I think it's just in terms of, if you're having people watching the game and then you're having situations like England-Tunisia and people not calling that, I think that needs to be better. But if you're going to have VAR, you actually need to have people actually making decisions. But I think in terms of, you know, you see in the amount of penalties in the group stages, you know, vastly higher than then. That's because there's fouls and people have been picking up.
Martin Scott would have been fucked if VAR was introduced back then.
Yeah. It does kind of remove some of, kind of those crazy controversial decisions on the whole, but in terms of rules and fairness, then
I think on the whole it's been fine. There have been one or two instances which will be ironed out, so I'm fine with it. Basically, we're not old men that are employed by the BBC or ITV or Sky just to have fair and balance. I'm just going rabble, rabble, rabble. I don't like this because I don't really understand it.
I don't like change.
Who does? Yeah. What isn't going to change is that we're still going to be with you every day for this World Cup. Every day there's a game, and maybe, just maybe, when there's not a game, you might get a glorious present like this. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.